Peruvian Pisco is one of the most unique spirits in the whole world, and in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you what it is, what makes it so special, and why you should be drinking more of it. So, Pisco is a spirit that I personally love, and we use it a ton here at my restaurant. This actually isn't even my first video on what Pisco is. A little while back, I did a video talking about, in general, what Pisco was and comparing the Chilean and Peruvian versions of Pisco. So if you want to get a little bit more general knowledge on Pisco, you can watch that video right up here. And in this video, I'm going to be diving in deep and specific about what makes Peruvian Pisco very much unique. I will be saving talking about the Chilean version of Pisco for another video later on. But if you're new here, my name is Louis and welcome to my channel. On this channel, I post cocktail recipe videos, I talk about my favorite spirits, bartending tips and tricks, and what it's like to own my own restaurant and bar. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, come on over here and hit that subscribe button so that you can get on your way into making better drinks and cocktails. And don't forget to hit that little bell icon to never miss out on any of the videos that I post. Right, let's get back to why you came here and Pisco. Right, so let's dive into it. So what is Pisco? Well, Pisco is a brandy made from the wine of a very specific set of grapes. And with Peruvian Pisco, it's actually a set of 8 specific grape varietals. But one of the big things that separates Pisco from other kinds of brandy, such as cognac or Armagnac or just regular old brandy, is that typically with things like cognac or Armagnac, it's usually aged in oak barrels. This bottle of Pierre Ferrand cognac is a very deep golden color, and that's from all of the years it's spent aging in a barrel. One of the first key differences to what makes Pisco stand out from other spirits is that it actually cannot touch the wood of a barrel, or else it cannot be labeled Peruvian Pisco. And why that's significant is because typically aging is how a lot of spirits get a majority of their flavor. Things like whiskey, cognac, even tequila and cachaça, a lot of it derives a lot of its flavor profile and its biggest characteristics from the aging process. And the reason that that's important is that means that the craftsmanship and the ability of the distiller to get the best flavors out of these grapes is key. What comes off of the still is essentially the flavor that you're gonna get in the end product. And along those lines, Pisco can actually only be distilled once, and you cannot add any water after it comes off the still. A lot of other spirits, such as whiskey or vodka, they add water to cut the spirit so that it's not so harsh. So the Pisco needs to come off of the still basically done. Because from that point on, it needs to just rest in a non-reactive stainless steel container just for a couple of months before they can bottle it. But essentially what comes off the still is the final product. So the craftsmanship of the master distiller is the most important aspect of what makes a Pisco good or not. And you might be sitting here thinking, well, that sounds great, but that sounds really restrictive. And how do you get variety in flavors? And why do other brands exist if essentially it's so restricted? Well, again, it comes from the craftsmanship and also the specific types of grapes that are allowed to be used in Peruvian Pisco. And those 8 varieties of grapes are Quebranta, Negra Criolla, Uvina, Molar, and then you have Moscatel, Torrontel, Italia, and Albia. Though 80% of all Pisco is made with the Quebranta grape. And along with the grape varieties, the other big key difference that sets different Peruvian Pisco apart is that Pisco can actually also only be made in 5 specific coastal regions in Peru. And the reason for this is that these specific coastal valley regions have the best climate and terrain to grow the specific kind of grapes needed for Pisco production. Because you're only distilling once and you need the highest quality ingredient going into making Pisco, these dry and almost desert-like areas of Peru where the Pisco grapes are grown, the heat is so important because it helps concentrate the sugar inside of each of those grapes so that they have enough sugar to distill and ferment, to turn it into alcohol and into wine and then eventually into Pisco. And of course, the different terrain of these 5 different regions do create a little bit of variety along with the different varieties of grapes. You may be thinking that still doesn't really sound like that much of a variation. I now want to get into the 3 different classifications of Peruvian Pisco. And those 3 classifications or classes are Puro, Acholado, or Mosto Verde. So right here, I got 3 different examples of Peruvian Pisco to illustrate the point. So the first one I want to talk to you about is Puro Piscos. And Puro just means pure. And this is the most popular type of Peruvian Pisco. And it basically means pure because it's only using one specific variety of grape. So it's using one grape from the start to finish. In most cases, about 80% of all Pisco is using the Quebranta grape. Machu Pisco here is a pretty popular brand of Pisco. You can find it in a lot of places here in the States. And this is a Puro Quebranta Pisco. The Puro is interesting because it needs to be distilled when all of the wine has finished fermenting. And so the next type or classification of Peruvian Pisco I want to talk to you about today is Acholado. And Acholado basically just means mixed. And that actually means that the producers used more than 2 different types of Pisco grapes in the production of that Pisco. And this is really where Pisco can get really, really fun. Like I said earlier, because each of the different grapes have different flavor profiles and different characteristics, mixing them in the production of Pisco, it provides a majority of the variety within Pisco, different Pisco brands. And an Acholado can be made from 2 or more Puros or 2 or more Mosto Verdes. And so what are Mosto Verdes? Well, let's get to it. Mosto Verde is just a word that means green must. And where the name comes from is that because I mentioned earlier that Puro Piscos the wine needs to be fully fermented and dried out before they make the Pisco. The biggest difference is that Mosto Verdes, they actually don't need to finish fermenting, meaning that while the wine is still fermenting and it hasn't quite finished yet, that's when they'll then go and distill it and make Mosto Verde Pisco. Mosto Verde coming from the fact that there's almost like a green must to the wine because it hasn't finished fermenting yet. And these are some funky, awesome flavors that you can find within a Mosto Verde Pisco. And in this case, the Caravedo Mosto Verde Pisco is using 4 different grape varietals, which are the Quebranta, Torontel, Italia, and Albia grapes. And the Barsol Pisco Acholado uses just 3 grape varietals from the region of Ica. They use Quebranta, Italia, and Torontel. And there you have the 3 different classifications of Peruvian Pisco. So why is that important and what makes this different from, say, a Chilean Pisco or other brandies? Well, the biggest difference, like I said at the beginning, is that it cannot be aged in any sort of barrel, and the way it comes off the still is the way it needs to be bottled after it rests in a stainless steel non-reactive container. With Chilean Piscos, they're able to add water to it, diluting it a little bit, and you can also age Chilean Piscos. Now, there is a giant debate, and there was a huge debate in the comment section of my last video about whether or not Peruvians actually make Pisco or if Chileans actually make an invented Pisco. And it's a back and forth bickering. And if you want to know the history of that, I recommend you checking out that original video that I did on what is Pisco. I go in depth about where this rivalry and feud came from. I'm not going to discuss that here, but essentially there are differences from how these each 2 individual products are produced. Why should you be drinking more Pisco? Well, for one, it is an incredibly high quality spirit. All of these regulations and restrictions on Pisco production means that it is a very high quality spirit. If it has to go through all of those steps, the theory is that it will become a much better product on the outset. So it's a very clean drinking spirit. You can sub it in for a ton of different vodka cocktails. I hate vodka. I don't drink vodka. Pisco is my go-to clear distillate because Pisco is amazing and vodka is not great. And there are just some really fantastic South American cocktails that you can make with Pisco. And I actually have a series of videos on my channel going over a lot of these amazing clean drinking cocktails, and you can check that out right over here as well. Things like the Pisco Sour, the Chocano, the Pisco Punch, and the Gabriella are just 4 fantastic cocktails that you can make with this amazing spirit. And it's just I love the fact that the quality is just so high and the attention to detail is so incredible. It shows that people care, you know, and there's families that have been around for hundreds of years producing Pisco, all trying to keep that heritage alive and the quality alive. But there you have it, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know down in the comments. Is Pisco Peruvian or is Pisco Chilean? Let's decide this once and for all down below. Just comment Peru or or Chile down in the comments. Let's see who wins this one. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. It would mean the world to me if you could also hit that like button and share this with a friend. I'm really trying to grow my channel, and this would mean the world to me if you could help me out with that. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.